Welcome to the ConunDRUM podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am really excited to bring you this episode. This guy is one of my favorite drummers. He plays in my favorite Canadian rock and roll band, Danko Jones, which is arguably one of the last true rock and roll bands doing it today. Their new album, Power Trio, was just nominated for Metal Hard Music Album of the Year at the 2022 Juno Awards. Yeah, I can't believe I really get to say this, but I'm just going to cut right to it. Enjoy my conversation with Rich Knox.
Day.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. All things considered, things are opening up again and things are starting to happen, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You must be pretty excited.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't even feel real yet.
Yeah,
maybe I'm holding out. Yeah,
I'm
holding out until it actually happens.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it probably won't feel real until you actually stepping on stage and there's an actual crowd there, and then those old 100%. Feelings start coming back.
Yeah, totally.
the old familiar feelings. Yeah. So yeah, man, like I don't know if you're aware of how the podcast, or have you ever done a podcast?
I think I have done a podcast, but explain how you'd like this to go, and then
okay.
This is where.
Well, this whole thing was because of COVID, like shows and everything got canceled. And as you know, when you're playing shows, the best part of the show, I mean, other than, performing and getting that dopamine rush or whatever, is meeting people and getting to hang out and just, getting to know your fellow, peers and musicians and whatnot.
Yeah.
So being in isolation, I was like, well, I mean, the technology's there. Why not, find out more about all these people that I'm not going to get to meet. So it's basically just, find out, their musical journey and like where they come from and sort of what aspired them to be part of this wild, crazy music journey that we're all, sort of a part of. Nice. So that's kind of the premise of it. And then, it's pretty chill. It's laid back. You just kind of shoot the shit.
Perfect. I think it's a great idea. Great idea for podcast.
Yeah. And it focuses on Atlantic Canada. Like I haven't ventured out of New Brunswick and P.E.I. so far. I've got a guest from Halifax coming up soon. So just trying to keep that Atlantic flavor. I know probably limits me in like views and all that other stuff, but at the same time, when you're from the East Coast, you get it.
Yeah, I think it's actually it's kind of nice because I think, you may not get national views or whatever, but I think, it's so much more interesting to people from the East Coast because it's like, okay, focusing on us, we're not getting glossed over or whatever,
which happens all the time.
yeah, totally. Where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in Miramichi, New Brunswick. It's about an hour and a half north of Moncton.
Nice.
Somewhere stuck between Moncton and Bathurst.
Right on.
Yeah, you'd go through it if you were going from Moncton, because you're from the island. So if you'd be coming off the island and then headed north on the 11, you'd probably breeze through it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. I have a buddy who's got family in Caraquet. Are you far from Caraquet, or is that even further up north?
That's further north. That's about an hour and a half north, whereas Moncton's south. Yeah, I'm like right in the middle there. Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah, just a small town. Basically, it's a city because they amalgamated a bunch of villages together, just to get that federal money.
I hear you, man. Same. Yeah. I grew up in a town we called it North River, and then it became Cornwall. Same thing. And I was pissed when it became Cornwall because I lost the North River thing. But
yeah. Well,
not fair. It's not interesting. That's not that interesting, but it's interesting to me.
Of course, it's interesting. So you say North River, Cornwall. What part of the island is that?
Yeah, so that's like right outside of Charlottetown. So like if we're using like island directions, if you're coming from town and you're on the way to the bridge, you would pass through the first town outside of Charlottetown you would pass through would be North River, formerly known North River, now known as Cornwall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not too far from where all the attractions and stuff are?
Uh, as in like the attractions in town. Like, oh yeah,
Like
you're like you're.
Ripley's and
Oh no, that's a little further out. That's a little kind of like I would think we're still kind of close to the South Shore and
okay.
Ripley's and all that stuff. That's all up in
It's
the
on the
North
North
Shore.
Shore. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there. I remember as a kid, I went to what was it called? Rainbow
Rainbow Valley.
Rainbow Valley.
Yeah. That was yeah, that place means a lot to people of my vintage and in PEI for sure. Our
Yeah.
vintage, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty creative spot. Like there was a bunch of places like that on the island that like up in Cavendish that just seemed like so like thrown together, like shoestring. Just it was really cool. Like this, whoever these people were, this very creative like time when PEI was like a place to bring your family, and these like, there's like big like corporate theme parks like Disney World or whatever, but these little ragtag
Roadside attraction.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they still do it. Like they got the Ripley's and what's that other theme park that's there now?
Oh, there's Sandspit is
Sandspit.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Bart's Fun Park was a huge one. That might it was like it was all in the same zone. And then it became, I think, Island Adventure Park after that. But like it had this big space shuttle. I don't know. That was like the most ragtag, random, a bunch of attractions in one spot. But it was like, yeah, it was somebody's amazing brainchild of a thing. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah. So growing up on the island, I know there's a long tradition of musicians there. Like, was it Natalie McMaster?
No, I don't think she's Cape Breton.
She's from Cape Breton. Yeah.
I think.
Who am I thinking of? Who's the islander that I'm thinking of?
Could be, I don't know. Could be Richard Wood. Could be Tim Chason. Could be Stompin' Tom.
Well, yeah, there's definitely Stompin' Tom.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch. Lenny Glant. So
you're doing my research for me now.
Well, I'm gonna like leave somebody obvious out of this.
Yeah. My cousin who's from here moved to the island a number of years ago. You might have heard his name, Roland Beaulieu. Yeah, he won the music PEI Musician of the Year 2021, I think it was.
Yeah, no, Roland.
Yeah, okay. How do you know him well, or
decently well? Like we met for a coffee not too long ago, like maybe a few months now, but like I think just from kind of seeing our names in the scene and stuff.
Yeah, I just had a two-parter with him because I mean he and I go, I mean he's known me my entire life. I would say he's a couple years older than I am, but yeah, we had quite the trip down memory lane. Yeah, he's a fantastic musician, and I'm glad that he's kind of venturing out on his own and doing his solo thing now, because I mean the guy is world class. Like he can play anything under the sun, and he does it well, and it's good that he's getting some props. So
yeah, I second that.
Yeah. So as I was saying, growing up on the island, like a lot of music, a lot of culture on there. What kind of music were you listening to as a young lad?
Yeah, so young lad, like I do have like a musician in my family. Like my uncle plays the drums, but like I didn't like see him play a lot growing up, and so all this is leading to tell you that like there was music around, but in like my family, like I was jealous of like those kids that had like like every Friday night in their kitchen turned into a kitchen party with like fiddles and guitars and stuff. I can't claim that.
Okay.
We were pretty like normal, shouldn't say normal, but like your classic non-musical family, just like, but like I had like music lessons, like I was in piano lessons and stuff, but growing up, I guess like just early on, like just whatever was on the radio, I guess. And it wasn't until like I remember like when CDs were first coming out, and like
the old Columbia House subscription.
Oh yeah, that would be before it. So like I had like the band the Odds. Had like but at that point I'm just like picking. I have no idea who anybody is. It's just like you're picking the stamp or whatever, like what looks cool. So I had
Yeah.
like the odds Blind Melon, I think, because it had like I think the B girl was on the front of the cover,
Mhm.
if I remember that correctly.
So this would have been like 91, 92.
Yeah, so like that was kind of around the time when I started like even kind of paying attention to music. Is like
Mhm.
I think like I remember just like whatever's on the radio, like it was I think like Phil Collins was always on the radio, so I associate like Phil Collins with just always being in my world for some reason, and
He
like
still is.
and he still is in my world, and I think he's awesome, but I don't know, it's just like that was just like I don't know, just something that was this exists, like this is the
Yeah.
sound of the radio and stuff. But when I first like started paying attention to music, it was like that kind of stuff, and then like Nirvana, Soundgarden, like it was kind of like that was where my head was at. But I do have to like give a little shout out to I think the first CD I bought was Ace of Base, The
Okay.
Sign. So
Yeah.
little curveball there for anyone who's
Man.
knows what I do now.
I don't even want to say what the first album I bought was. No, I would have been, my first cassettes that I bought were Bare Naked Ladies Gordon
Oh yeah,
and House of Pain Fine Malt Lyrics.
right on.
It was a 2-for-1. So I bought,
Nice.
those are the two I picked.
That's a great pairing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't be further from each other. It was awesome. Yeah. And then my brother tried to steal my my Gordon cassette. He didn't want anything to do with House of Pain, but
Really? Wow.
yeah. He's like 9 years older than I am. So he didn't want to listen to any of that rap stuff.
The rap stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, your tastes are like pretty, so boxed in as a kid at sometimes. But much music was also a big thing that like, was that a big thing for you? Because that was a big thing for me.
Huge.
Yeah.
I had my VCR set up and I would tape like especially like concerts and stuff that would come on, because they'd have like live events that would come up. So anything live, I would record it. Didn't matter who it was. And then I'd some of it I wouldn't even have heard of, and I would just set it to tape, and then I'd watch it back the next day and I'd be like, that's good, and then keep it. Or if it was crap, I'd just record over it. But
Yeah.
like I was always drawn to like the live performance of it. I mean, like those niche shows that they had as well, like The Edge and what's the one that Strombolopolis was on?
Was that Loud?
Loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like those were like my weekends all the time.
Yeah, same. I can remember like getting like this like little kids table and like getting like nachos and like hot salsa, which is like also like my first time getting hot salsa, and just like taking painful bite after painful bite and watching. But like it was like I was home alone. I was just like not old enough to like go out and do something with anybody, like probably 13 or something. And like my night was just like, okay, I'm putting on like much music and watching all these videos and like whatever was out at that time.
Whatever
like,
the top 20 was on Friday night.
What's that? The Smashing Pumpkins, like Ray, what was it, like The Bat in the Cage? Anyway, that
album, Melancholy.
Yeah.
I was never big into Smashing Pumpkins. Like it's weird, like that era, like there was those big bands. It was Nirvana, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam. But for some reason, Smashing Pumpkins, I just couldn't. I liked some of their stuff, but I couldn't get into them enough to like go and buy a CD.
Yeah, I kind of was pretty whatever was on like their hits where I was but I don't think I ever had that album.
But looking back now as an adult and as a an aspiring drummer, if you will, whatever that means, Chamberlain on those records is just insane. And it, and then you look at where he comes from and his jazz background is just, it blows your mind. Like I never heard of jazz until I started looking into that stuff.
Oh, cool. I saw him like at in Toronto at a show, and he was like, I had heard like how great he was and stuff. I don't know. I'll preface this by saying like I'm so oblivious to so much. Like I don't know how, I got to where I was from. Like some people that seem like encyclopedias of music, and I just don't have that mind. Like some stuff I get super obsessed with, some stuff just kind of passes me by. And so like Jimmy Chamberlain would have been one of those guys. Like I remember hearing like, oh, he left the Pumpkins or whatever, but that he was a great, and then like later reading, oh, he was a great he's a great drummer and stuff. But yeah, when I finally saw like him play with them, it was only a few years back. But yeah, you get it. It's like, okay, you are like a pretty like special drummer.
Yeah,
And yeah.
And I mean, I guess now he probably gets more accolades or credit from what he was doing then, but just listening to what he was doing on top of those songs, or how he'd lay behind the beat or push the beat, and just all these like syncopated polyrhythms, and it's just like way over my head, because I was like super Dave Grohl nerd, right? Like Dave
Yeah.
Grohl and Billboard and John Bonham, those were the guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when did the drums sort of pique your interest?
I think I was like in the 7th grade by the
Mhm.
time that like so that was like I went through like the school bands and stuff. Like I was just music was always kind of a big interest of mine. And so like there was like a tryout for the drums, and I tried out. I had knew some like friends. I felt had been an unfair advantage. Like I had a friend that had become a drummer the year before. He was a year older than me, and like
Okay.
my next door neighbor like was super handy guy, and like kind of made these little drums out of like buckets and like elastic garbage or grocery bags, and made sticks and stuff. So like I kind of like had held sticks before, and like anyway got past the audition, became a drummer, and then like somebody on my street had a guitar and wanted to start a band, and so it was very quick from like I was like now a drummer, and now I got this starting my first band with this
Okay.
guy. So like he was a couple of years older, and so he kind of directed things. But yeah, it was like just started then, and just one thing continued to lead to another, like from that band. I guess we can all do that. We can all look back and like connect all the dots. But
Yeah.
so it started around then, and then
Yeah. And those are the guys that, I mean, for me, my first band, I'm still in a band with one of them. But like those are friendships and bonds that you have like until the day you die, pretty much. Like, are you still close to some of those cats that you started playing or
yeah,
learning how to play with?
yeah, I am. Yeah, like yeah, not that the particular guy I mentioned there, not him, but yeah, like in the guy that ended up being the bass player in that band is still like great friend.
Mhm.
And yeah, like same like those first few bands for sure. And they definitely, those people that I played with were super instrumental in like encouraging me to continue.
Mhm.
Like they went to school, so now we're getting like this started around junior high, and then there was like a couple of iterations of the band, and then or like different bands and whatever, and then they went into a different high school, and their particular high school had was known for like, oh, they have a strong music program, and they're like, you should come into this high school and do this like I don't know, at that point I guess we already kind of decided that we like music was, whether we knew it or not, like this is what we do, this is what we do for our
It's
lives.
become who you are.
Yeah, so just kept following that. And so I went into that high school, like, so yeah, without them I don't know, I might have still been a drummer, who knows though. But
Yeah. Sliding doors moment, like if you
yeah,
went left or went right, like who knows?
yeah, totally.
So who were some of the drummers that sort of influenced how you developed your style? Because I know, like I said, for me, there's those three big guys, but there's lots of other players like Dave Abraziz and Matt Cameron, and I mean that whole grunge era, I guess, is when I really got the bug to start dissecting and learning parts, and then from that you incorporate what because you're playing in cover bands or whatever, and then for me, the band that I started in junior high into high school, we were focused on writing our own stuff. So all those guys that I was listening to were informing how I was interpreting our original music. So who are some of those guys, and what are some of the things that you kind of borrowed from that?
Yeah. Early on, like it was like Dave Grohl, you mentioned Dave Grohl, like that was a huge influence on me. Like those were some of the first songs I played. Also Brad Wilk, the Rage Against the Machine drummer, like that was the very first song I ever played with people, was Killing in the Name.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, yeah, I was telling someone this the other day. We were just reminiscing, like, and even, yeah, we didn't even have like the cowbells or whatever. So I don't know if like I just
Yeah.
did it on like rims or just it was like so we just yelled at like black 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 or whatever. Like we didn't care. And I probably butchered the song, like most definitely butchered it. But that was like, we were playing Rage. Like that was like
Yeah.
they were huge, like huge influence. So like those two were like more than any other bands at that time. Like those were the two kind of bands that I was most into. And then like, yeah, then it went, I don't know, like different things. Like I kind of went like got into like no effects, like was playing like skate punk, I guess, or like punk.
Huge influence
Yeah,
on me. Yeah.
yeah,
Still.
yeah. Like that, yeah, at that age, like I didn't really know what I was doing really, but like, like with whether it was Dave Grohl or like, especially like no effects. Yeah, just like learning, trying to teach myself how to do like a double, like not double kick, but like a quick double on the kick. Like that was a pretty big like learning moment on the drums for me. Like, like trying to and failing at trying to play fast. Like that was really tough for me for sure at that age.
Yeah, those
And then
doubles on the kick, man, they're just
yeah,
nuts.
yeah, and like just playing fast on the hi-hat. That was like yeah, those were like that was tough. That was tough for me. But yeah, those guys were super influential. And I guess after that, like I ended up going to McGill University and like taking like a jazz program there. So that like around that time I was like, when I started like really dissecting drummers, it was like jazz drummers that I was like like paying attention to in that way. So like transcribing like Max Roach, Art Blakey solos, Elvin Jones, like those. Yeah, like I did give you like my favorite drummers. I'm like mentioning a lot of them right now. Like
Yeah.
definitely Dave Grohl, Brad Wilk, Bill Ward. You mentioned John
Smelly.
Bonham, of
Smelly
course.
from NoFX.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But also like Elvin Jones, Brian Blade, Tony Williams. Now I'm just listing off all my favorite drummers. But like, these were like the drummers that I guess influenced me. Like I've taken like whatever about the chronological order, but like those are all people I've definitely taken from, like for sure.
Some of those guys are just otherworld, like,
oh yeah,
and just how they can do so much with so little. Like when you hear a kick, snare, and a hi-hat, and then they just lock into it. It's kind of like, Steve Jordan. As soon as you hear the first kick, you're like, that's Steve Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, just that groove just comes out of it. Just, I don't know if it's how he hits the kick drum, how he just, I don't know. There's certain guys that are like that. When you can hear them right away, what they're about, and just the whole history behind what they've come up with. And then you kind of go back to like what they were listening to and get their influences. And then it's just a whole rabbit hole of drumming. I don't know what the word is, but just, just it's a good place to be, because then you're just getting so many bits of inspiration to, try and steal their licks, or, and then you bastardize them and then they become your licks because you can't do them the way they did it.
Which is good and important. Like it's easy to like what's like mythologize our like favorite drummers and stuff. And it's, I think it's, and there's to a certain extent it's good to like, have respect and stuff. But I noticed one thing, that is one thing that I've come to realize more recently is like, I don't know, just like taking, like you put someone up on such a pedestal and it's like, I don't know, in a way it kind of holds you back. Like if you're like, oh, I can never achieve that. It's like, no. You're not them. So
exactly.
Why bother? But I know that's not what you're saying, but just as like
no, but it's true though.
Appreciation and teaching yourself. And
it's true
there's
though,
so
because
much to be.
Like as far as language, I've attributed, we're all speaking the same language, as the drums, but we all have our own individual accent, whether that comes from your region or just your education, like how you learn to play.
Mhm.
But we all speak with a different accent. So like it's all the same language, but and it's nice to hear all the different accents because, just like, the regular spoken language, there's so many different accents in the English language. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and they're all beautiful and
Yeah.
they're all valid.
Yeah. That's a great
Yeah.
way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm a little philosophical sometimes, even if I can't speak, even if I can't speak pretty good. Yeah.
Hey, that's
Um,
all right.
so what gave you the bug to study jazz?
It was those same guys that convinced
Yeah.
me to go into the other high school. They
Okay.
were big into jazz, and yeah, like there was this program started by one of those guys actually. It was called the City Stages Festival, and it was like on this. There's this street in Charlottetown, which is not like it's Richmond Street, but there's this area of the street called Victoria Row, and they
Mhm.
close it off during the summers. And so they had started this like the year before I got into their that high school, playing. Like it essentially started as a busking gig, and then this guy Chris Bedan, is very enterprising young man, like convinced more of the restaurant owners on the street to like chip in to this like music performance. So then we got some funding from the government. They put a stage on the street and stuff. So that
Okay.
became like a job. Like that became my summer job. And so it was through those guys, I guess. Even before then, like that's what I started thinking about jazz, and then through that program got to like play it more and more often, started to get a little bit better at it. And then around that time, some of the kids from my high school were starting to go away to jazz school,
Mhm.
to study, and I kind of kind of followed in their footsteps. And in particular, there was like I didn't go to school right away for that. I just went to like university, took like English and psychology courses and whatever.
Yeah.
And those kids came back from after just like for Christmas break, and they were so much better. And
Okay.
in particular, there was like a friend of mine who was my age, who was a drummer, Chris Driscoll. He passed away years ago, um, which is super sad. He was a great drummer.
Yeah.
Speaking of great drummers, but he was so much better, and we were always like a little bit competitive with one another. So like that was another like planting of a seed. Like, okay, if you're so much better, like I have to go and get the same education that you're getting. And so that was part of what catalyzed me going to actually like go to school for it. But I guess, yeah, it was just, when I first started, like Chris Bedan was like on me about like, you should like, really encouraged me like listening to more and more jazz. And it took a little while. It was like, it was like an acquired taste for me.
Yeah.
And then, but by the time I got to McGill, I was like obsessed. And then that was like, I have this like 4-year gap in my musical, like if anything else outside of jazz, I didn't care about. It was only jazz that I was, I became a jazz purist for 4 years. And then when I graduated, like I kind of like started being like, I'd like to go back and play other stuff. But
Okay. So
was
while you
it,
were doing the jazz, you weren't like weekend warrior gigging with the rock band on the.
I guess that's not true. I guess I was doing that. So I guess my memory is not is what I guess. Like
We're all getting
I'm
older.
lying. I'm lying. No, I was weekend warrioring
Okay.
in P.E.I. So I would come home for the summers, do this, like go to school for the fall, like school time, and come back and play in the City Stages Festival. And then I also had like gigs with a cover band in P.E.I. as well.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Like something like I know like we have probably mostly maritime listeners,
Mm-hmm.
but and maybe everyone knows this, but like cover, like you mentioned it too, like you're playing in your cover bands.
Yeah.
That's not a thing for everywhere. Like up
No.
in Toronto, like most people I knew that play music like were never in a cover band. Like they just started their whatever, or
Yep.
maybe if they were, it wasn't the same way that it's a cover band in the East Coast. Like there's no,
No.
that scene doesn't exist there.
Like if you want to make money as a musician on the East Coast, join a cover band.
Yeah.
And that's like, especially like the party cover bands, like they're the ones that are getting all the bookings every weekend. They're the ones that are getting top dollar from the bars, because the bars are in it to make money, and
Yeah.
people buy drinks when they're having fun, and they're having fun when they're listening to stuff that they're familiar with. So cover bands are king around here. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys that I know that have played in cover bands their entire lives. They've never ventured into doing anything, original or on their own, whether it's something that they wanted to aspire to do or not. I mean, they made the choice to be in the cover band, and they're having a good time doing it. So you can't fault them for it. They're having a good time, and they're home with their families. They're not touring all over the world because they can't do that with a cover band.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. No, it's a blast. Like if you enjoy your like bandmates company, then it's a beautiful thing. Like,
still making music.
Yeah. No, it's totally. But it didn't like that struck me like actually like one of the things, I know we're jumping around, but one of the things like we got started up in Toronto was like through some friends who were like a bunch of younger guys, which went on to be like a band that did very well there as a cover band. The band was called Dwayne Gretzky.
That's a great band name.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah? But like that was like, just a bunch of young guys. And we were getting together. Like there was this amazing zone we like fell into there. There was kind of through a bunch of like connections, ended up living in this building, and the superintendents actually Mark and Gina is actually from P.E.I. So there's all these connections, like how we got there. But we all ended up living in this one building. We had this it'll be a quick story, but we had this little zone that Mark set up, which was called the Bunker, and it made no sense that it existed. It was in like downtown Toronto in a 6-story apartment building, and it was like a building from probably like the 30s, and so it had this like kind of this, I mean, it was underground, but it was just kind of like beside the building, this like, which must have been like a place where they would like dump, like I can only imagine like coal down or like wood down, like, so there's these 6 manholes that were all like, so just to picture this like concrete slab, I don't know, like 30 feet by, I don't know, 10 feet or something, or 40 feet by 10 feet, 6 different manholes. And so that's what I'm just saying. It must have been like, they just must have dumped stuff down this thing, because it was right beside the boiler room. And long since stopped using that. They switched to like oil. But so this room existed. It just became like this storage room. Mark, this is before I moved into the building. Mark had like gone in, cleaned it up, made half of it this jam space that just existed. Like the drums were set up, the P.E.I was set up, amps were set up. And then the other half was like a TV, like where people would like, and a couple of like chairs and couches where people would watch hockey games.
Yeah.
And we could go down. And so like all these, we were all like, 20 years old, and moved in and started like playing like with original band actually. And then just started jamming on like Tom Petty songs and whatever in this place. And it was amazing because we were down, like the building we lived in, it's like some condos have like a gym. We had like our own private jam space / hangout zone.
I'd take that
like,
over a gym.
Yeah, me too. It was incredible. And like we play there like, within reason, but like up till probably like 11 o'clock, like at night or sometimes midnight. And then you just venture to the zone, like, and watch TV or a movie or whatever. It was amazing. And like, lots of like lots of laughs, lots of good times for sure.
Yeah.
But
hard to find a jam room like that. Like you can find a gym on every corner, but to find a place to rehearse and jam, like, good luck.
It was insane. So you just wake up and go down and see who else is in the room. Like, and so anyway, out of that room was born this like that Dwayne Gretzky, which is like a cover band, and ended up doing like super well. So like it goes to show like cover bands work everywhere, but it's just like it wasn't a thing. Like I remember like my buddy Brian and I were both from P.E.I and like saying like, guys, like we got to like make this cover band, like it and Mark was big time on board too, like it'll work, like trust, and like because it wasn't a thing there. It was like, no, like that's not cool, but like anyway, they still do it, they still run it.
Yeah, cover bands are, I mean, you look at even like Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, like
Right.
talk about like a cover band that shouldn't exist, but I mean they're all like old punk rockers, and cover bands they're fun. Like if you make it fun and you're with people that you enjoy making music with, then yeah, and then that energy from the stage goes out into the audience, and then they're having fun, because how can you not have fun watching other people have fun?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you're playing hit songs usually.
Usually.
So it's like,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
it's gonna
huge
work.
catalog of good music out there that you can come up with a couple hour set somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But that's the other thing, like cover bands, like not to stay on that too long, but like cover bands, they play a full night, like from usually like 10 o'clock until the bar closes. So that's, you got to have a good solid like 4.5 hours
Yeah.
worth of material.
Yeah, it's weird when you get into a band that's not a cover band,
Yeah.
and then you're like, that's it, we're done. Like
Like
we just play once. We just play one set.
one set, 145, 1 hour. What's that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I prefer doing the one set, because then you're not, it's sort of like a sprint versus a marathon. Like when you've got that full night, you're pacing yourself. Whereas when you've got that one set, everything comes out.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing left when you step off the stage.
Yeah. It's fun. It does feel like more of a performance, like you're as opposed to still performance, but it's more of like a hang. It's like, okay, we're all here to hang together.
Yeah, we're gonna hang all night versus
Yeah.
So how did the so you're playing in Toronto, you got the Dwayne Gretzky thing going, you're jamming and having fun. Now you're with Danko Jones, and you've been with Danko for almost 10 years. Is it going on 10?
Yeah, it's getting close. What is it, like 2013? So almost 10.
Yeah,
almost not, or yeah, it'll probably be, I think maybe it'll be 9 this
so you're
August, or is it gonna be 10 this August, whatever.
You're the longest running drummer that he's had in the band.
I think I am. Yeah.
So you're kind of the guy. It's like the Spinal Tap phase is past. Like
I can still spontaneously combust.
So how did that call come about?
That was through like what happened? That was just really, I was in another band, another like rock trio called Flash Lightning, which is a band around Toronto, and just had a mutual friend that knew me from being in that band and playing around this bar up there called the Dakota Tavern. We were there like all the time. And Danko was looking for a drummer, and I guess like they had put their feelers out, and this like friend of JC, the bass player, especially, like he just threw my name in there, and so I guess I just got a call. Like actually it was like a moment of like, it's funny how these things work. Like this was a time like, like the Dwayne thing was going, like, and those guys continued that band on, and it's now like this huge thing. At that point it wasn't as big a thing. So you're making some money, but it wasn't great. And then I was playing with some other bands and having a blast, like just in general life terms and in like musically, but like financially, like it just wasn't going well. And like I was just and I could have been admittedly way better about keeping on top of finances and stuff, but anyway, it was like dark times financially, let's say. So I was like literally in a coffee shop, like on my computer, like looking like for new next steps, essentially. Like, okay, this has been fun. I'll always play music, but maybe I'm not going to be a drummer for, whatever. It's just started to become annoying. Like, this is annoying. So I'm like looking, I think I was like looking to like become like a naturopath. That was my plan at the moment. And I got an email from this guy, Nick, who was a mutual friend, and just asked like, hey, any interest in joining a international touring band? And
nope.
Whatever. I was like,
nope.
So so I actually said yes, and then went he just like told me, like, here's, check him out, this Danko Jones, and I was aware of the band for sure, but like I never seen them play live. I didn't really know that much about them. And I don't think it was entirely my fault, because they most of their career was spent in Europe too. Like, so like they were already kind of come and gone from the Toronto scene before I ever got there. And so yeah, like I said, I was aware, but like I'd never like gone out and seen them or anything. But so got in touch with the guys and went and had an audition. And then I think it went like pretty well. And then I convinced them to have a second jam. And then that went much better. I think the feedback I got from the first jam and was because they had seen this video of me playing with Flash Lightning. My first show with Flash Lightning was Flash Lightning's album release. Their drummer had left like right before the album release, which is a shame because they were great. Like they were great with me, but like they were really good with, they had their like chemistry, and that was like a real cool thing. And we even get into that later when you join a band, because the same thing with Danko. When you join a band and you're not the original drummer, like it's like, I know it's not the same as it, but whatever, we'll get there. But so I went like play with them, and on the video, like my approach to that band was like just like wail. I just like wanted to like just really aggressive drumming. And in hindsight, Flash Lightning was a bit more like groovy, kind of closer to like ZZ Top than like Nirvana, let's say.
Yeah, more blues rock.
But my like where my head was at was like slamming the drums at that. That was like my conception of that was my conception of rock at that particular moment for that band. And so anyway, it actually ended up being like a better fit for Danko. So they saw like someone was videotaping that show, and so that was like the video evidence of like what I was doing at that time. And so they saw that. And then I think the criticism I got from the first jam was like, I'm just not sure like you're gonna like hit hard enough, or like don't know if it's like so it's like okay. And then the second jam, I blew out the bottom head on my snare drum during the jam, and I like remember like thinking like, well, shit, I've at least like if that's not hard enough. And I don't think that's what he meant, but regardless, I did blow. We had to switch snares, and so I
never tell
proud.
a drummer to hit harder. Be careful what you wish for.
So that's and then I ended up joining the band for like kind of like, I guess in hindsight, it was a bit of a like probationary period. We went and did this tour in the US. It was called the Uproar Tour. And it was like Alice in Chains was headlining Jane's Addiction. And we were on like a smaller stage. It was like, these were like amphitheaters all over the spot, these places. And we were like in these littler stages in the parking lots of these amphitheaters. Sure, like, and not like name dropping, but this is just like such like a like blowing my mind moment. It's like first gig with Danko. So I'm going from like a couch and like almost giving up to being on this little stage. And like each night we're going back and forth, like who plays the 3:30 slot, who plays the 5 o'clock slot. But like we were going back and forth, this band called Walking Papers, which has Barrett Martin, amazing drummer if you don't know him, and Duff McKagan was the bass player in it. So like we're just like, not like we were hanging out like buds by any means, but just the fact that I was like kind of sharing a stage with like Duff. Like I was like, what has happened here? What a turn of events.
And then you like your mind takes that time warp to like 91, 92, and you see them everywhere on these fucking huge, like the Tokyo shows and like.
Oh man, yeah. I like remember like it used to be in boxing, and like they obviously had one cassette or playlist at the boxing club, and like Welcome to the Jungle was on. Like
that's a trip.
So that was a trip for sure. So anyway, that's been playing with Danko a long time. That was that tour.
So that tour would have been still in support of Rock and Roll Is Black and Blue, because you didn't do Fire Music yet.
Correct. That would have been So we played a couple of tracks off of that album, but not much. That speaking of like the short sets, like I think we had like one night we'd have half hour and the other night we'd have 45 or 40 or something. So it was like, it was actually like kind of an ideal thing for me, because I did feel like, up to that point I'd been playing like, obviously like I was a few years at a jazz school, but like then was playing like in Toronto at that time, at least my scene was mostly like alt country was like a huge thing, like Ryan Adams, Gillian Welch, like all that, like Levon Helm had that amazing album Dirt Farmer come out. So like all these, that was kind of like where my head was at mostly. And even like the gig that I found got into Flash Lightning with was like a folk gig that like their bass player was subbing in on. And like, so like, that was like, it was totally by chance that I got into this like rock band, especially like a hard rock band. Like in some ways I had no business being asked to do it, but it was just got lucky and like, you know, getting asked to do these things or whatever. But so yeah, I kind of like, it was an ideal little tour to get started with, because it was, you know, for sure, like as soon as I knew I was getting in the band, like I went into the practice room like it was like training for a marathon, and like, you know, and did put in a lot of sessions, like just to try to like, I guess that like advice of like, you're not hitting hard enough, like hit close to home. I was like, okay, I got to figure this out, and like, you know, put the time in. But as far as like being like nervous on like kind of going up to the next level or whatever of gig, it was a great introduction. Having only like 30 minutes a night or 40 minutes a night.
So when you started
really great.
When you started with Danko, did you strip the kit down to the 3-piece right away?
Yeah, that was like a request from them, and I had no problem with that. It's like, sure, but it looks cool, and I'll do whatever you want. Like,
yeah. I'm going to play on these stages and these shows, and you just want me to use that? All right, cool.
Yeah, well, like I'm not like super like chopsy anyway. So in a way, like it suits like my style anyway, and like I'm happy. Like, you know what, this is like, we're just meat and potatoes, as Danko once said it so eloquently. I think it's like, you know, there's a lot of music out there, and some music, some rock is like it's like a filet mignon. We're like a really good hamburger. That's like what we describe as, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with the really good hamburger, but it's just like, you know where you stand. Like, we're like a really good hamburger.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I actually used when the project that I'm with, when we first started it, I was using a 3-piece kit, and then for some reason, I don't know, I added the rack tom and then the extra cymbal, and then I've been playing that ever since for like the last, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years. And then I just recently was like, you know what, I'm gonna go, like, we're in the process of writing new songs. So I was like, you know what, I think it'd be a good idea to just kind of take all that away. And so I'm just getting back into using that 3-piece setup. And
Right on.
man, like you said, it, like the meat and potatoes, it really forces you to like hone in on what's important in the song.
Yeah.
And you kind of pick your spots a little bit better too, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to keep it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've grown to love it. Like, I've just like got built a little studio in the place we got here in P.E.I, and I just set up like a kit. I've got more drums set up now than I ever have. But like, that being said, like I love the, you know, I have no intention of like even trying to get anything switched with Danko. Like, that's just what it is. It's fun too, man. It gets you to like, you, as you know, like even the fills you do have to be like, you kind of got to be a little bit more creative, because like, yeah, you're doing with less. Like, you don't have your typical whatever,
you gotta
bucket about your bucket of shit or whatever is
not
like available to you in the same way, at least, you know.
Pat Boone, Betty Boone, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that,
you know. Or if you're gonna,
Boone's not home.
Or if you're doing that, you gotta learn how to do your crossovers, like,
know,
which is a little showy, but at the same time it works too, right?
No, it's it's fun. It's fun. Do you have a cowbell as well?
I do, yeah.
Are you
I'm missing my tambourine. I can't find it, but I had a tambourine and a cowbell set up, and I have the one crash and the huge ride, and then
nice. Nice. Sweet, man.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
a good
doing
setup.
It is a sweet ride, because it is exactly that. It's a 23 sweet ride.
Oh, is it? Oh, nice.
No, it's a great setup. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think the guys are kind of liking it. Kind of makes everything a little tighter too, you know. So I think the guys are digging it, and I mean, they haven't complained about it yet. So
nice.
You know, I'm not going to tell them what guitar they should play or what kind of strings they should use. So
yeah,
you know,
it's nice. You know, everybody sticks in their lane, and at least in that way.
Yeah. So that's the other thing when you're playing with the stripped down kit. The ghost notes, like your left hand has to be really strong. That's something that I've noticed in quite a few of the songs. Even the back catalog, that you're playing now. You're doing a lot more ghost notes. You're doing a lot more than what was on the original recordings. So does that left hand, is that coming from your jazz background, or just kind of comes out natural?
I probably both of those things. It's probably like influenced by the jazz thing, but I definitely don't think of it. It's not a conscious thing really, any more than it is just like, this almost half conscious thing of like this, I feel that this needs this or something,
Yeah.
I
As a
think it's just,
three-piece, you're filling in the sound, right?
yeah, I guess, yeah, it's just, I guess I had to analyze it. It's like my attempt to make a little bit more rhythm, like kind of just like take up a bit more space, or like just keep us a bit more together. It's like an attempt to keep the groove more obvious, I guess.
It works.
Yeah. Cool.
It works real well. I mean, your new album, Power Trio, which is a fantastic album. It's nommed for a Juno, so congrats on that.
Thank you.
So when are the Junos? Is that in the summer?
I think it's in May.
May?
I had to look it up because
Yeah.
I'm considering going.
Yeah. Are you guys going to be back in time? Like, I know you guys are heading out for tour pretty
Well, I
soon.
think it is. I think it falls in the middle. It's like there's a break that week or something, and so at least Danko and I will be back. I'm so impressed you like know the names of our records and stuff. Like you never know like what's gonna like.
Well, here's the thing. I was a fan of Danko's for quite a while, probably because of the punk rock background. Because there is that element of punk in the attitude and I don't know if it's like just the swagger. And then like I say, I'm big on watching live performances and stuff. So I was watching the live thing, and it's funny you're saying how you didn't really know a whole lot about them before joining the band. That must have been quite the shock, like to come into that where they're so powerful live.
Yeah. Oh, that was so cool. Yeah, that's why, like I said that, like I'd never like seen them live. That's why I mentioned that, is because the live show is something else. Like I obviously like the records, but the live show, yeah, it's just a different thing. Like he is fun to be on stage with, because it's, things, there are certain things that are going to probably expect will be said in some way, but like there's always this element of like, if whatever the audience has given him, they can change the banter. Like there's no like exactly like written out banter that you're going to get every night.
By he's got mic skills. He's got mic skills.
He's got mic skills. He does.
Yeah,
he does. No, it's really it's a blast play with him and live. It is very powerful.
And that
like, yeah.
So with that, like joining them, playing on the road, touring with them for however many months, how long was it before they started being like, okay, this is the guy, we're going to start writing new material with them?
Well, it was near the end of that first little run. So that thing was probably like about 2 months long, maybe, or maybe it was a month, whatever. It was a short tour. And I actually, like at that point I had like another offer for a different gig that was like a singer-songwriter, but it was good. It was a good, like, so it was like, had this like, I know I've talked about like being on a couch and all bummed out and stuff, but like then like, when it rains, it pours. So like I had these like two great things at the same time. And so like I could legitimately talk to the guys like, I really like this. I would like to continue this, but I also need an answer because I have this other thing that I got to go do. And it might've seemed like some kind of power negotiating tactic, but it was actually true. And so I think like JC just said like, yeah, we like having you around. And that was like kind of it. So I guess that was it. And then, yeah, we had, I think there was a little bit more touring that happened before we got into writing. Would have went over with them to Europe, which would have been my first time ever like traveling overseas, which was like fun on many levels. And so it was a little bit longer before we got writing, but it was, after that first little run of shows that they decided to keep me around, which is which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause just like seeing the live shows and listening to those 4 albums that you're on, I really found like since you joined the band and those 4 albums, the sound is really kind of dialed in. Like the songs are all just bangers, like from cover to cover. Like, not to say that Danko's got some bad songs, because we all have songs that are less than the other songs. They're the hits or whatever you want to call them. But those 4 albums, like I can go cover to cover on all 4 of them. Like I'm not going to skip any track on them. And I don't know if that's just the rhythm section, if it's what you're doing on the drums that's keeping me invested, or whatever it is. But the 3 of you is sort of like that magic formula.
Nice.
And,
Thanks.
and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass or anything. I'm just, it is, the proof is there, because those 4 albums are, one after the other. And then this last one's getting the Juno nom. So, the work
Nice.
is there.
Nice. Thanks, man. It's like, they're, they've been at this a while, and
25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were already a well-oiled songwriting machine by the time I came in. And yeah, I think they just have like a great working relationship, those 2 guys. And I guess my job fitting into that, when I first came into the band, like I had all those tunes to listen to. They already had like so many songs to learn, like if I wanted to learn everything. And yeah, like my favorite drummer was Damon, who was I guess like technically maybe their 4th drummer, which is insane. I'm the 7th drummer, but in a way, like they had a bunch of drummers at the beginning. So they have like, I guess that for most bands, they've still had a lot of drummers, but like the first like 3 came really quick, and they count one guy that was really just there for like a music video. So it doesn't really like, maybe I'm like 6.5.
But we all have growing pains,
Yeah. And that's like, they all those changes make sense if you know the stories. But like for me, like I just went back and like studied bring it back to like we were talking about like cover bands, right? And like for me, it was like I think learning all of the songs that I've learned before ever joining Danko, and then even since, like there'll be literally hundreds of songs that I've learned, and especially in my later, like the past 10 years, like really learned. Like I've learned how to really learn a song on the drums, as opposed to like mostly learning a song on the drums, which is a big difference.
Yeah.
And so, and including their songs, like so I like really like my favorite drummer was Damon. I loved how they sounded at that point. There's like this great concert. If anyone's a Danko fan and wants to see a great concert from back in the day that they're not already aware of, there's the Holtzfrid. If you look up like Danko Holtzfrid, there's something like the way that thing is shot, the way the band sounds that night. It's like they're so on fire. It's awesome. It's so good. And so that was really like what I was trying to emulate. And then I guess it's just, whatever my culmination of like what I thought was, you make all these information you take in, then this becomes like your little computer program for making your best decisions for whatever song, I guess. If my small part in bringing the like whatever's about these past 4 albums, that's what it is. But it's definitely like those guys, do a lot of the heavy lifting on like the bringing in like the good ideas. And then by the time it gets to me, we're like doing like, I'm definitely helping arrange the songs, and I've always felt like I've had a great amount of creative input, and they're it's not, it does feel like 3-way thing, but just to say like, maybe we have come across a good thing in the past 4 albums. Like I like what we're doing. I'm glad you like what we're doing. But it's just that anyway, that's if I had to try to figure it out, that's what I'd say about it.
Yeah, it's hard to put it into words, but I know what you mean. Yeah. I feel that way. Like when we're in the songwriting mode, it's Jack's the primary songwriter. He comes in with songs pretty well, 90% done, but 90% in the way that the door's open for interpretation or any type of input from me or Sean, the bass player. And then we'll kind of play with arrangements. So,
Yeah.
Once you get that formula figured out, it makes it that much quicker to come up with material, so you're able to put stuff out faster. And yeah, it just, when the formula works, it works. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like some of our favorite songs to play though have been ones that just spontaneously happened. And, that being said, most of them are written like that, but like there are occasionally like, someone plays something in the jam room and then someone, piques someone's interest and they add something. And then all of a sudden there's this like song idea, like, so, some songs just like write themselves and as long as it takes to play them the first time.
Yeah. Right.
But, I don't know. That's nice to still have it available, but yeah, our last album was all done like, we were in the all physically or socially distancing and physically distancing, but like it was all like mostly sent like tracks across to each other like through emails and stuff. So that was like this last album, the Power Trio, was mostly written like you mentioned, like some bring in an idea, what do you like, put drums down to this. Yeah, it was
okay.
Yeah, most of it.
So was it put together that way too? Like, did you do all your drum stuff in your home studio or a studio on the island and then send them the stems and all that?
Well, at that
did
point,
you guys like get together to make the album?
Well, we did eventually, but like for a lot of it, like we'd started writing the album. So some of the ideas came out like before we got, the world went to shit. Yeah. And then after that, like there was tracks sent back and forth. I was still living in Toronto then, so I would just go into our jam space in Toronto, set up a couple mics, and then like record the tune or record like drums, send them back. And then there was one thing I was actually down at P.E.I for that I sent like a little snippet of something back. Aside from that, though, we did get together a few times in our jam space. We kind of like set up like barriers so it could be separated. And so we did jam things out before going into the studio just to make sure everything felt right and make any other little tweaks. And then we went into the studio together. Like, but like for, anybody that's been in the studio and like tracking drums, it's like, I just need to be in the drum room. I'm in the drum room alone. Yeah. Everybody, we're there, but
you're pretty isolated anyway. Yeah.
Pretty isolated. And everything was pretty like, I will say that one thing about us, everything is pretty well decided before we're in the studio. Like we're just going to execute on our plan, really.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not renting the place out for a month and
exactly
seeing what happens.
Financially, it just doesn't make sense to go into into a studio with nothing prepped. Do all your pre-prod beforehand, and then when you go in, all you're doing is hit and record, and one or two takes, and you're good.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Totally.
So that means you moved back to P.E.I during the pandemic or in midst pandemic, I guess. Yeah. And since you've been back, you started up your own company, Performers Health.
Yeah.
So what?
More with the research.
The research. I got a whole.
Amazing. You're amazing.
Just me. So I mean, that's a wellness coaching, fitness, healthy lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah, exactly that. It's so yeah, that was like getting the actual like certifications for like so that I could feel legit when talking about this stuff was like my pandemic project. But it's been like something that's been on my mind for many years, and kind of just fully like trying to keep myself healthy on the road and be in the best shape I could to play in the band. And I guess just a general interest always like in, whether it was getting out for runs or going to the gym or whatever. But I did kind of get more serious about it during the pandemic. And so the company is exactly what you said. It's for performers, just to take care, like where to start. I think like there's definitely a lot of people that I've spoken with, like people in bands and stuff that want to be healthier than they are. And, maybe whether it's they don't know what to do or just feel intimidated by like what's out there or just don't connect with what's out there. Like, feeling like a gym is just full of gym bros and like just, or it's not their style, like stuff like that. But, or whatever it is, could be like the eating thing, and they kind of like have heard some things about what you should or shouldn't eat or whatever. But my goal with this was to create a company that could help people, like musicians or performers, like could be actors or dancers too, for that matter. Like look at fitness and health and wellness and nutrition all through the lens of like trying to make them perform better. And so like gearing it, kind of starting there. And so there's actually a offshoot of this company might interest you more, just called Fit Drummers, which is like only like, so this is like looking at like the injuries, common injuries that drummers have, common issues that they have, like whether it's like the endurance to play their set or whatever, or just, and then just other, general health things, and like also like mindset stuff. So that's with the performance health thing, I've given some like classes on mindfulness, and I'm giving like a workshop to like the membership of Music P.E.I coming up here soon. With Fit Drummers, I'm going to be launching an online course that will be coming out soon, but that'll be geared towards like, basically like, it's like Olympic level training for drummers. That's the goal.
Damn.
The thing.
So that'll help me lose my COVID, probably 30 at the 30 pounds at this point.
COVID 30.
It just keeps adding.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, it's important. It's like, you want it, like, not just for drumming, of course, but also just like, for general life, we want to keep healthy so we can keep going.
Yeah, I know pre-pandemic, just going to the gym like 5 times a week, getting up at 5 a.m., going to the gym before work, and lifting the heavy weights, and
Nice.
I dropped quite a bit of weight. I don't remember what my weight was, but then when COVID hit, gyms all shut down, so then the motivation to work out at home becomes really difficult. Like it's not just the being home, it's the space to do it and to do it properly. And then I had a hernia surgery, so then that put me off for another like 6 weeks. This isn't a sob story or anything, but but it's just it's just everything kind of fishtailed, and so now that we're kind of coming out of all of that, I'm really looking forward to getting back into that kind of a shape, especially with shows opening up, because that 45-minute set behind the kit, man, you're dropping some pounds.
Yeah,
like you're sweating a lot, like.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
That's great. Yeah, it is a great workout playing a set. That's the beauty. Like, yeah, man. Give me a shout. Give me a shout. I'll give you a shout when I have it up. And,
okay, good. Because I'm definitely down for that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was going to get into the whole McGill thing, just more about like with music education, because like, as you say, like in school, like for me, music class was one of the bird courses, as they said, like you didn't have to do anything. It was an easy grade, so there wasn't a whole lot of focus on, identifying people that, kids that wanted to pursue music or had that kind of a, talent or, interest in it. Knowing what, having gone through the whole program with McGill, which is pretty big deal. Do you have any thoughts or insights as to what, is public schools the kind of the answer, or is it private lessons? Like, how do you think we should reach out to kids that are going to be, the next generation of what we were?
Musicians, as in the best way to help them.
How to help them kind of, because now it's all TikTok and YouTube, and you see all those people that are, they're seeing the end result, they're not seeing how to get there.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think I had a good experience, like educationally, from the school band programs. I think it was incredible how much more intense and how much more I had to learn when I got to university, though. Like I got to McGill, like it's
like you weren't prepared based on what you got in public school.
Not really, no. Like that was one thing I did notice, like that the kids that generally came from like, there, you know what though, it is, if you have a good teacher, a good like program, that's where it's at. Because I was going to say like kids from Toronto or Montreal or whoever, like we're in the bigger cities where like there was way more jazz and like the jazz musicians lived like that, they just seem to have like come in already running, like I was just like crawling. And I think probably what they had was probably a good thing in their school, but they probably also had private lessons for sure. Like they would have been studying with like, they probably have access to the people that teach at university as well. Like, they're teaching out of university hours. So like private instruction is huge. I think like, yeah, the TikTok stuff is great. There are way more online like programs for people to use, kids to use. Like I'm thinking if as drummers, like Drumeo is like comes to mind. Like that's a huge company.
Steven's
But,
Drum
like,
Shed.
Yeah. What was the other one? Drum Technique. I saw like I think it's called on Instagram. Like there's like, yeah, there's so many teachers doing that. But there's something about like one-on-one instruction that I think is pretty, if you have a good teacher that can be there with you, and there's certain things that you can look at a video, but if you don't have someone there to like correct you in real time, I think you can probably, I think it's just way better for you. And like you're way less likely to like develop a bad habit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that being said, I think like, I guess that would be what I would say. If you're serious about it and you're, if you're a kid out there listening right now and you're serious about it, like go find a teacher. If you can find a person that's doing what it is that you want to do, that'd be a good place to start. Not every musician teaches and not every musician's a good teacher, but like you could try seeing if like, you're whoever's like in your local scene is a teacher, they'd be a great person to start with. But I also think that if you're serious about music, like I think in some ways, I don't know, my decision was always made for me, kind of like I was always going to keep seeking it out. So I think if you're like really serious about it, you're going to find a way to seek it out, or you're going to end up figuring it out. Okay. Your question is like the best way to do it. Maybe a teacher, but as far as like inspiring the kids, I think you're interested or you're not, I think.
Yeah. So I guess the onus is on the individual to seek out if it really is their passion.
Yeah, I think so. Like, yeah, there's lots of ways to explore music. Like you don't have to go to school either necessarily, but you do got to practice.
That's the key thing is it's when you're seeing the end result, you got to understand how many hours it took to get, because that, especially like on Instagram, it's like 15 seconds. Well, that 15 seconds probably took like 10 years to get to that, so I guess it's the whole perception thing of,
yeah. And I guess some of that, like what was that Steve Gadd quote, like fills and thrills and grooves pay the bills or something, but like that's something like that. And maybe this is coming as someone who just doesn't have the chops and is probably feeling a bit jealous, but like they're like very thrilling to watch like these amazing things, but like that's just like a part of music. Like that's like a very small part of being a drummer. Like it's got to become like a thing where you can just be amazing technically on the drums and have a lot of followers and stuff, but like it is really about being able to like you only get to use that a little bit during a show.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot else to it.
I'm far from a chops guy. I mean, I can play a song, I can play a groove, I can play to the music and especially the type of music that I'm playing. It's not an orchestral piece, it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, like as far as like, rudiments and stuff, like there's definitely some work that, and I mean we all feel that way, there's definitely some rudimentary stuff that needs to be worked on or sharpened up a little bit. And I liked your Instagram video where you're playing along to your song, where you're dividing it into sections with the that's a great way to kind of break that whole monotonous click track, playing to the metronome, doing your rudiments and paradiddles and all that stuff. Like that's a great way to do that. That was a good idea.
Yeah, thanks. It is like just, and you know, I think the click track stuff still has its place, but it's not, you're right. It's like a nice, like little palate cleanser to in the middle of your practice session, or it's just like, I just want to like keep in shape. Like I don't really need to.
Yeah. Just something to, just cleanse your mind. Like just, not be so rigid and actually kind of feel it. Cause then you get a feel for it too, right? You're playing along to music. So you're getting more of a feel in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good. I'm going to start using that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Nice. Steal it. It's
Um,
yours.
yeah. So here's the crash questions. I hope you're ready
All
for
right.
them.
Okay.
Okay. First one, always the first question. It's probably my most important question I'll ask of the day. So no pressure. Do you prefer cake or pie?
Did we include shepherd's pie?
Oh
And
my
like,
God.
and like meat pie?
Yeah, sure.
Pie.
Okay. God damn. No one's ever given me that answer.
Like, come on, meat pie?
They've cheated with
Like,
cheesecake, but meat pie? God, yeah, that's good.
yeah. Okay, I go with pie.
Okay. Awesome. Wow. Left turn.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I love it. That's a great
This
answer.
Knox guy is outside the box.
It's outside the box. The Knox is outside the box.
That's
Nice.
right. Yeah,
You should get t-shirts with that.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So this is the one that I only ask the drummers. And that is when you're into that zone, like when you're into a groove, are you more of a hi-hat or a ride guy when you're setting in there?
These days, hi-hat for sure. Back in my jazz days, ride for sure.
Yeah.
And so probably if I was playing jazz, it'd be ride. 100%. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I kind of bounce back and forth too. Depends on the type of music, but for a while, I always thought I was more of the ride guy, but lately I've been leaning more into like a nice semi-open hi-hat.
Nice.
Just kind of little washy, but not overpowering. Just kind of, yeah.
I find like in either case, I was going to say this for the ride, but I'll extend it to the hi-hat too. But like, definitely like when I'm playing with Danko, it's pretty full out. There's not a lot of dynamics. It's kind of like medium loud and louder, but it's always loud. But like with playing dynamically, like I was going to say this about the ride, same for the hi-hat. There's so much room to do stuff. So like, yeah, like that's when I think about like playing jazz, that those dynamics, like there's so many sounds you can get out of the ride. And it's true of the hi-hat too. But if I would go ride overall but if I'm talking about playing with Danko, then it's hi-hat.
Okay.
100%.
Cool. Awesome. And I know everybody's proudest moments are generally their family, which congratulations on the newborn.
Thanks.
Is that your first child?
It is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're in for a wild, crazy, and rewarding ride.
Oh yeah. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah. So aside from family and your newborn, what's the one thing that you're the most proud of accomplishing?
I guess just like having carved out this life that I've carved out thus far. Like
being able to do the music thing full time.
Yeah, that would be it. Cool.
It's not something everybody gets to do. I know I've got a Monday to Friday gig, and a lot of touring big name bands that tour have day jobs that they come back to when they're not on tour. Like
for sure,
it's not an easy road, especially in Canada, but I guess everywhere really. Cool. So if you had one CD that was stuck in your car, what's the one that you would not want it to be?
Good one.
Left turn.
Big time. What would I not want the CD to be? I'm going to sound like such an asshole here.
Good.
But if it just had one song on it, this is just what comes. I'm sure there's lots of other songs that I probably hate more than this one. but the song Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I
Oh,
always just
really?
remember that being coming on at the dance and like school dance, and everyone's having a good time. And then that song starts, and then whoever you were dancing with screams or like right in your face and leaves, and they all go over and hang out. Like all the girls just freak out because they just want to have fun. And then all the guys are like, what about us?
What about us?
Yeah. So that would bring back too many sad memories for me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say if that song was on repeat, like a mixed CD of just that song, I would not
Wow.
want that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have a good memory of that song. My wife was graduating college, and I was at her grad party, and they were doing karaoke, and some of her friends went up and did that song as karaoke. So it was a good memory for me
Yeah,
for that one. But I definitely see your point,
oh
like
man,
just
I
getting
gotta,
abandoned.
yeah, I guess that's probably what it is. It's like screamed at and abandoned. That's the two things I associate with that song. But maybe I gotta put it on and like work through my stuff.
Yeah, I
Probably
think you
what
got
needs to
some
happen.
scars that you got to work on there. Yeah.
I think I do.
um,
I've exposed too much here today.
yeah.
But anyway,
All right. I
we'll
don't want to
continue.
take too much of your time. I just
Oh,
got a
all good.
couple more.
Yeah.
Staying with pop culture. What would be your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, The Departed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scorsese.
Of course. Yeah. I don't know. It's maybe a funny choice, but it's just I think it's hilarious. I don't know. I can watch it. I can watch it many times. I could
Yeah,
go
yeah.
put it on right now and still enjoy it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Awesome. Um, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I count all three of them. Like that's one big long movie.
Yeah.
It's an epic. Yeah.
That's an amazing.
Yeah.
Feat.
Okay. So last question, and this is another drumming question. I know for me, like growing up, listening to all those records on repeat, learning everything, dissecting, when you're a kid and you're aspiring to, get to that level, you're always thinking, man, wouldn't it be cool if the drummer got sick and I got called up from the stage, or I got a phone call somehow, and you could go up there and you could just do it like right now. Like if your phone rang right now, what band could you go sub in for? No question.
That I'd be like, I know all the songs.
Yeah, like right
I'm
now.
ready to. Huh. Yeah. Well, I can't
And Danko
anymore.
Jones doesn't count.
Yeah. I can't anymore. I wanted to say Rage Against the Machine, but like I'd have to brush up. So I couldn't do that. But I bet you I could pull off a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers gig right now.
Wow, cool. Those are two vastly different bands.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been listening to some Rage lately, actually. That live in Mexico City. Man, that snare drum, like I don't know how it survives a single song, let alone a set. Like just that power he has and that snare hand, like just nuts.
Yeah, it's so groovy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good.
That's the other thing, like super groovy. And back in the day, he rocked a 3-piece kit too.
No shit. I didn't. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, like when they did their first album, he had like the floor tom, and he had a bunch of cymbals, but he just had the floor tom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it was till after their second album that he added the rack tom.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a nerd sometimes.
That's cool. I love talking to music nerds and nerds in general, because it's just always an interesting conversation.
Way more
I
fun.
I get nerdy, but I can't keep any of it in my head. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm a dabbler. I dabble.
Yeah, there's not a lot in my head, but the few things that are there, they're kind of stuck.
Nice.
Well, this has been awesome, man. I really, really appreciate you saying yes to this. Like I honestly, when I asked, I was like, no, it's gonna be a no.
Oh man, no, this is a pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me.
Cool. Well, I wish you the best of luck on tour, and as a father, that's, like I say, that's probably going to be your wildest ride, but it's going to be your favorite ride.
Oh, nice. Are you a father, I take it?
Yeah, he's 17 now. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm older than I look.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
man. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I really appreciate you asking me to do this. It was a blast.
cool. Okay. I cannot thank you enough, Rich, for being on the podcast. I'm beyond grateful to have had you as a guest. I wish you and Danko and JC nothing but success on the tour. Power Trio is a fantastic album. If anybody watching or listening to this has not had the chance to check it out, I'm going to have the links. Do listen to that album. It's fantastic. It's exactly what it is. They're a power trio and they bring it. So that's it for this episode, guys. Again, thanks so much for watching or listening. I've got more fantastic episodes on the way. So as usual, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next one.